take you through the process of producing these 3 pieces based on poinsettia. The photos are from my poinsettia downstairs, which is in a bit of a bad way, but I thought I'd produce 3 pieces this size, and I don't know if you can quite see, but I've traced the outlines I wanted onto the canvas paper, and I've used, on one of them I've used soft pastel just to put the outline in more clearly, and on the others I've used watercolour pencil, so I just want to see which works better really. And the next stage is to put in the colours for the underpainting. So first of all I need to choose colours, and I've got a piece of scrap here and all my colours here so that I can pick out which reds look the best for the job. So that's how I'm going to start off, and I will start with the lighter areas and put a very light coat in these areas, not worrying too much about sticking to these little fiddly outlines, just a little coating here. Blend it in with solvent, and then I'll put in an underpainting of all the red. And then when I've got a thin layer across the paper, the other thing I find is that the pastels are much easier to blend on top of that, and they just sit better on the paper, they don't sink into it, which actually means using less pastel, which means it dries better. Oil pastel never dries completely, but if you use it very thickly, it will continue to come off no matter how many times you fixed it. So although impasto looks great, there are downsides to it, and I tend to stick to thinner layers. Okay. So in the last segment I showed you how I'd covered all of the background with some of the basic colour, slightly lighter than I would want most of it to finish up, and then I started adding in some of the darker areas, and as you add in the dark around a light area, it makes the light area appear lighter. In this one I've also begun to start to change, having got this area well begun, I've started to change the colour of the leaves. So I've picked this one out because this one was slightly lighter, that was a darker area, and I'm going to deepen some of the colours on these and then start to pick out the leaf veins. This will need further work, especially the green areas, but you're beginning to see now how the pollen heads stand out, and how the easiest way to do that is not to paint each one of them individually afterwards, although I probably will go over and add some light colour once I've got everything in. But in many ways the easiest thing is to actually preserve them like you do with watercolour. Now not all oil pastelists work that way. Everybody's got their own way of working, and some of them start with dark and work towards the light. I think it just depends on what you're comfortable with. But that's how I do it. So what was a completely white sheet of paper, I think if I peel that back you can see I'm working on white, is now totally covered in pigment. And it's actually not too sticky because the layers are thin, because I've used thinner to apply them with. The layers are actually quite dry now, and I can work onto there and it will take more pigment, and it'll work quite nicely. So I'm going to get on with that. I shall probably do that on time lapse, and then you can have a look at some of it happening and unfolding, and then we'll work towards the next stage.